And we are live. JT here. Welcome to The Huddle. The Huddle is where I sit down with successful people from the world of sport and coaching. It's to learn more about their journey to greatness. Why do I have these conversations? Because success always leaves clues. I want to take a moment to thank you, whether you are watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, or whether you're listening to audio on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me and my special guest today. And here's my reminder to you. The mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's wide open. So my challenge to you is to go all in on this conversation. Remove any distractions and get laser focus in the here and the now. And I guarantee you, you will gain a valuable nugget of wisdom that will not only help you succeed in sport, but more importantly, in the game of life. I've been looking forward to my conversation with my special guest today. Before we hopped on, we were talking, just reminding, each other that life's all divine timing. We've talked about it, but again, now is the time for us to come together and have a beautiful conversation. My guest in the huddle today is a multi-talented, multi-passionate human being. He's a teacher, he's a coach, he's a speaker. He's an author. He's truly just someone who shines his light bright in this world. My guest in the huddle today is Kwame Osei. How are you today, brother?
Thank you so much, JT. I'm great. I'm blessed. I'm in Kingston right now. Some may say it's a dark and gloomy day. Some may say it's raining, but for me, there's nothing wrong with a little water, and I'm blessed to be on here with you. So hey, let's go.
I love it. And one of the things that's really resonated with me since we've connected, brother, is just, again, the energy you bring to life. And you mentioned blessings. And I'm a firm believer in the practice of counting your blessings. And for me, it's a daily habit. Some days I do it better than others, but at the end of the day, when I do count my blessings, I find those days are a little brighter. And I'm a firm believer that the biggest blessing you can give anyone is your time and energy. So thank you so much again for blessing me with some of your time and energy here today, brother.
Hey, I'm just grateful that you offered this, and I totally agree. I say the same thing. I say time is the greatest currency. They say time is money. It really is. So I'm just grateful to be here, and we've talked for for over a year. I think it's been over a year. We talked about connecting, and what you said, it was in divine time. This is the time we were supposed to speak. So everything happens in due time, and I'm grateful to be here in this time. Let's go.
Okay, brother. So one of the reminders I'd like to offer myself and remind others as well is that life is a game, and games are supposed to be fun. So I'm curious, what is a fun fact about you? I had a coaching colleague that said, we all have our quirks. We all have these things that make us different and unique, and celebrate it. So I'm curious, what's an interesting fact that maybe a lot of people don't know about you that you'd be open to sharing with our community?
There's a couple of interesting facts. Okay, one big fact is, and anybody who knows me really well knows this about me, is I'm obsessed with the number 4. You see right there. I'm obsessed. When I wore this number in various teams, and if I wasn't able to get 4, I try to get a number that has 4 within it. The reason why is I was born in '84. I came to Canada when I was 4 years old. 4 is just a powerful number in this world. There's 4 seasons, right? There's 4 seasons, there's 4 elements, and we go through 4 stages of life. So 4 is a big thing for me, and I kind of people may say I overdo it, but I go as deep as to the point where I wake up by the 4. So if I gotta wake up in the morning, for instance, my alarm right now was at 4:44 this morning. All right, I woke up at 4:44. If I have to wake up in the morning, let's say I gotta get up for around 8. I'll wake up at either at 7:54 or I wake up at 8:04. Right. So I'm just weird like that. I'm weird. So we all got our thing. So that's one big thing, one quirky thing about me. I'm big with the number fours. I notice them everywhere.
It's interesting as you share that, and I love that four, like you integrate in other parts of your life, and it sounds like it really reminds you about where you come from, your roots, like those beginnings. Like it sounds like that's what that number signifies for you.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. I thought I just really loved the number four, but maybe that's it. Maybe it brings me back to my roots, to my time of birth, I guess. I never really thought about it that way, but maybe there's something higher that I haven't even thought of. I just thought I was being
Well, that's the fun thing when two people like you and I who like to go deep within to peel back the proverbial layers of the onion. Who knows how deep this conversation is going to go?
No, you're right. You're right. Maybe we could go back lifetimes. Who knows?
Exactly. So I'm curious, sport has played an important role for you in your life, right? First, you were a high quality athlete, and then you've transitioned into coaching. So I'm curious, sport has played an important role for you in your life. I'm curious, what has been that one lesson? I know there's many, but what's that one lesson that you find, is at top of mind that you find yourself applying to other areas of your life today?
I think, man, you're right. There's so many. One of the biggest lessons that I think sport has allowed me to conceptualize and to like implement into my life is just the ability just to work with people. Um, I'm a guy. I like to do a lot of things by myself. Some people may say, maybe I should have been individual sport type guy, but working in a team allowed me to be successful in the various teams I've been involved in. For instance, where I work right now, I work with offenders at Millhaven Institution, and I'm able to bring people together because I understand what brotherhood is like. I understand what true brotherhood is, and I understand how to deal with people of different races, ethnicities, socioeconomic statuses, right? Because I've been on a football team where there's like usually, for a university team over 100 players, high school team like 60 players, 50, 60 players. But I've been on teams where there's a lot of guys from totally different backgrounds, totally different shapes and sizes, but somehow, some way we were able to come together and bond and become brothers for life, right? And that's because we were able to get to know each other beyond the sport and work together and trust each other. And trust is a big factor. Trust is like, if somebody can't trust you, they can't work with you. It's as simple as that. Whether they're your player, your student, your colleague, if they can't trust you, they're not going to work with you. And maybe they will work with you, but not going to work to the potential or to the degree that they should be. Just going to do the bare minimum just so you can coexist. So I think that's the biggest thing, just being able to work with people and build that trust, build the bridge. And I've learned this from football and various other sports I played in my life.
And I love that analogy that you gave, talking about like focus on building those bridges of trust, right? Like you said, someone has to feel like you have their best interests at heart before you can truly bring out the greatness in them. So I'm curious, was there a particular coach or mentor that helped you understand that? Or was that just something you just understood from birth, like the importance of building bridges of trust?
I can't say there's a particular coach, but I think over the course of time, I've learned from various coaches, even the coaches that I didn't myself trust. Like I've learned from the quote unquote. I don't think there's good and bad, but I think there's something to learn from everybody. So if I notice a coach wasn't, the best at a particular method, or a coach had a particular method that I didn't think was successful, then I took that from them, and I understood that you have to have a differentiated approach. You can't approach every player the same way. Like trust is built in multiple facets. So the biggest thing is, if you're gonna earn trust from somebody, you gotta get to know them. And getting to know them is different. It may be one layer, but there may be other layers that you have to go through. For me and you, maybe we just started off and we trust each other right away because we're very open. Right. But there's some people in this world that's been through so much trauma that trust is not going to happen just like this. It's more about your actions. They're always watching you. So understanding that has been something that I think, I don't know if I just through my lived experiences have realized that, or is just part of who I am in terms of bringing people together. But I will say another big thing is Gary Waterman, Coach Gary Waterman from St. FX. I really enjoyed his open door policy that he had at St. FX. You know, he had he was the type of guy that you could just walk into his office and just to talk about life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I really appreciated about him, because he wasn't just about football. And I understood that when I was at X, that we connected with him more, and we wanted to help him win. We wanted him to succeed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when your players want to fight, want to ride out for you, when your players love you, when the players appreciate you, that's bigger than the X's and O's. So I would say that, in a sense, has helped me understand how to build a trust.
Mm-hmm. I love what you're sharing, and again, just these simple reminders, right? And hearing you share, it was this idea of like meeting people where they're at, right? It's understand that everyone comes through different lived experience. There are different levels of being able to trust people. So just meet them where they're at. And it reminded me on just the power of, you know, you referenced Coach Waterman and this idea of like an open door policy. And when people feel like they can walk in your door, then what's the next step? It reminded me the power of asking questions, right? Like thoughtful questions, and developing that practice of listening more than you're talking. And again, I just go back to this reminder again, probably the football coaching background, but there's a reason we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. It's to listen twice as much as we talk. So thank you for providing me with that reminder.
I agree. And asking questions, being attentive, and also being vulnerable, you know, allowing yourself to be uncomfortable. I think an issue with a lot of, not an issue, a struggle that we all have is we don't want to be put in uncomfortable situations, you know, and it's human nature that at some point there is going to be uncomfortable situations, and we have to be empathetic and vulnerable at the same time. And I think that's where real connection happens. For instance, like I said, I work with offenders in the system, right? And right now they're working on this process of just assessing Black offenders, right? It's going to be called a Black social history, where you essentially like figure out a person's history. Because one thing in the system that's been happening is that some offenders are getting sentenced or getting charged or getting a certain amount of time based on only their crime, but there's things that lead to their crime, you know. So understanding a person before you make the judgment is key. And this is something we're pushing for in the judicial system right now. And I had a meeting about a month ago at one of the institutions here in Ontario, and the subject came up where we were talking about it. And one of the teachers, one of the admins said that they felt weird having these conversations with these Black offenders, because to them, they're just the old white lady, you know, like, we don't understand, right? And so when the subject of race comes, a lot of people feel uncomfortable. You know, you can't just smile, you know, you can't sugarcoat things. You have to be real. And when people get uncomfortable, then there's a guard up, right? And in this instance, there's a guard up from both sides, from the PO or the men and the offender, right? The offender's not going to trust this person because she's just reading off the paper and she looks uncomfortable, right? And she's going to try to avoid things. So I heard her, I listened to her, and I saw her struggle. And I said to her, I want you to, I said, first of all, we're in this business to help individuals rehabilitate, right? And then reintegrate into society. That's the goal, right? So that's the prime goal. That's our why that we're in this business. And I said to her, I want you to think about the life that these offenders have lived for so many years, being in this judicial system and having meetings with people who they don't trust, you know, because a lot of these offenders feel like the system's set out against them, you know, whether it's because of their color of their skin, who knows, whatever, they feel this way. So imagine them being in these meetings continuously through their lives. From a lot of these guys have been in the system since they were young offenders, right? So they've it's just been a cycle of different people coming through and feeling judged and never feeling like they're heard, always feeling like they're already guilty before they even speak. Now imagine being in this room with somebody that you don't feel comfortable with. How do you think they feel? Right now, if they've been uncomfortable for so many years, it's okay for us to be uncomfortable right now. Right? Not now there's a balance. And once you could get past that comfort level, you could at least put a dent or a hole in that wall that they have up. And then true conversation can happen, but it has to come from an authentic perspective, from an authentic way. So I said that, and I think that goes with coaching, teaching, everything, right? You have to be open to being vulnerable. I coach at Queen's University, as I said. One thing I do with my receivers after every practice is we have a talk just about life. I get to know these guys beyond football players, and they know me beyond their coach. So I open that door of vulnerability. I open that door of openness, and that's where the trust has come from.
Again, hearing you share, and I appreciate you sharing your lived experience and just how it is sort of these lessons have framed other areas of your life, whether it's professionally, doing the work you're doing, working with, young offenders, working with, coaching, and the theme around this idea of empathy, right? Like being empathetic towards others, right? Like meeting people where they're at. And it's interesting that what it reminded me is you need to practice patience in order to be empathetic, right? Because you have to understand that people's past and their lived experience has framed how they perceive the world. And it's really coming from that place of, again, being able to stand in the shoes of another. So I love, again, how how it all comes back to empathy.
Yeah. And their perception is their reality. And it may not be our reality, it may not be our truth, but that's their truth. And we have to understand that. And then that's where we can meet them and at least make a plan of how to progress forward.
So I'm curious, again, it's hearing you share, I start to understand, even you releasing your newest book, right? All around this idea of self-image, really. And that frames a lot of the work I do. Love it.
Yes, I am. Let's go.
It's interesting because people will look at you and they'll say, well, Kwame, he's got it all together, right? Like he's got this great energy, this great enthusiasm. He's always must have had it figured out. But again, learning more about you and where you've come from, you've started to realize that, and I remember Ed Milet said this great idea, and I'll sort of paraphrase it, that what you perceive disqualifies you actually qualifies you. So I find it interesting that, your lived experience growing up has sort of framed what you do now, which is help bring out the full potential of people, helping people to see just truly how great they can be, how amazing, right? So I'm curious, how has your lived experience growing up, right, in Rexdale to where you are now, how has that framed kind of what you're doing today?
Wow. First of all, I love that quote. I'm going to have to get that from you. How has that helped me to where I am today? I think my lived experiences I'll tell you this. For me to be here talking to you today, like this is a miracle. And this is why I always say I'm blessed. Anybody asks me how I'm doing, I say I'm blessed because I've been through so many things in my life that you'd be shocked to know I passed it. I survived it. So for me to be here in this very moment, anything I'm doing is a living miracle. And I'm just truly, truly grateful because I know a lot of people that I grew up with in my environment that are not here today. Who I literally was involved in the same things. I know a lot of people who are not able to breathe fresh air today, fresh free air today, and for that I'm grateful. So I think it starts from gratitude, man. From gratitude, I'm just grateful. So everything I do today, all these accomplishments and accolades or whatever, is extra. Like. From when I graduated university, I said to myself, anything I do beyond this is just the cherry on top because I already succeeded. I I already went against the narrative. I already beat the odds. I already beat the stereotype. Right. We're growing up, looking around. There was only like a few things that were expected of me to get involved in gangs and drug culture, which I was, to go to jail at a young age, which I almost did, to die at a young age, which I almost did. And if you get beyond that, you know, if you're fortunate enough to get past all that, you're gonna end up with a low-paying job in a factory or something, right? You're gonna be doing manual labor your whole life. And no disrespect to anybody that does that. Like, you gotta take care of your family. If you enjoy that, that's great. But I just knew that wasn't for me. So growing up, like that wasn't something I wanted to do. And once I got to an age where I realized that my lived experiences actually gave me strength, you know, I'm not afraid to fail. I'm fearless when it comes to trying new things. You know, I'm open-minded. When I left my comfort zone, I saw the world for what it actually really was, right? My perception changed. So for me to be here, I'm just super grateful, and I'm just trying to be the person I needed at a young age, because growing up, there wasn't many positive male influences in my life, and guys that were positive, I just felt like, you know, I felt they just couldn't relate to me. I felt they weren't cool. You know what I mean? So now I'm trying to be that person. I'm trying to be the cool, you know, role model for the next generation. You know, so that's it. My lived experiences gave me strength and a perspective that not many people can understand.
I appreciate you sharing and being so open and vulnerable, sharing, you know, your past experiences. And it's interesting that as you share it, it's that reframe, right? Like having the mental discipline for you to be able to say, you know what, every experience has made me into the strong and powerful man I am today. Like that takes courage, right? And that takes, you know, mental discipline to be able to like step into that and really understand that. And I love what you shared about this idea of, you know, giving hope. You're showing that where you start doesn't have to determine where you end. So I love that you're essentially serving the person you once were, and that is a beautiful place to live, right? So I acknowledge you for that, brother.
Thanks, man. And I just wanted to touch on something you said about people might think I have it all together. I definitely don't have it all together. I struggle. I have my struggles. We all have these two wolves on our shoulders, you know. We all have the angel and the so-called devil on our shoulders. And for me, I battle between who I was to who I am and who I want to be. There's a battle, because if I've grown up for so many years with a certain perspective, it's not just going to go away like that. There's still, you know, little parts of that person that I have to battle, you know. I still go through my phases, my ups and downs, but what keeps me going is where I know I'm going, the fact that I'm here and alive, I know I have a purpose. What keeps me going is the light I see ahead. What keeps me going is when I get a message from a kid about how much I've impacted them and inspired them. That's what keeps me going. What keeps me going is when I look at my son and I know that he's watching me, not just listening to me, but he's watching me. That keeps me going. So I definitely don't have everything together, and don't get fooled by what we see on social media. You know, everybody portrays the good parts of their life on social media, you know. So, and me too, I do it too. So don't be fooled, but at the same time, understand that you don't focus on the negatives either, you know.
I love, again, like you talk about the power of vulnerability, right? Like being open. And it's funny, like we live in a world, the social media driven world, right? Where it's this illusion of perfection, right? And yeah, we see everyone's highlight reels. You know, people aren't posting the worst parts of their day. It's just understand that, but then it's also embracing. I love what you shared. Like it's embracing the imperfection of life, that you have your moments, you have that, it's that law of rhythm, right? Those ebbs and flows, and you do your best in the moment, and you're aware of it, you learn, you grow, you do better on the next play. It's like a football game, right? Like you just focus on the next play. And it's interesting, and why that resonates with me is I know when I made this transition away from teaching and education to what I'm doing now, you know, I felt this pressure, this illusion of perfection. And it's interesting that it actually made me less relatable to people because people are like, do you ever have a bad day? Where now, over the years of being in this, what I'm doing now, it's like, yeah, I have my moments, but the work I do on myself actually allows me to switch back, to navigate to my highest self, right? And that's the game of life.
Yeah, and I agree. It's the self-development, you know. And you said the law of rhythm, that like learning about the ebbs and flows of life, understanding that, you know, things go down and they will come up eventually. That's just life, you know. Nothing, like one of my favorite phrases is this too shall pass. This too shall pass, you know. If things are going great right now, you know what? It's gonna pass, you know, so you better enjoy it. Things are down right now, you know what? It's gonna come back up. So focus on just on what you want to achieve, you know. And that's pretty much the law of neutralization. And when I realized when I realized what neutralization was, I realized that that's how you can really win in life. Like that's a cheat code to life. Understanding that the flow is eventually going to come back up. So don't get stuck or don't prison yourself with the negativity, with the trauma, with the drama. Don't get stuck in that place, or else you're going to miss out on when things get back up. You're not going to be able to fully appreciate the good times. So when I'm down, hey, I have a few seconds of like feeling down, but like I said, what gets me to where I need to be is the focus on my focus on what I want, you know. So you know, don't miss out on it, you know. Stay locked in. That's it.
It's interesting, right? And you talk about, again, divine timing, and why I feel like we've connected, from the get-go, is just like that analogy you give, right? Talk about eyes on the road ahead. And I have to relate back to, this mental programming, this old mental programming that we all have, where it's so easy to dwell on our past, right? I liken it to like staring in the rearview mirror of your life, right? And just looking at all the past mistakes, all the times you drop the proverbial ball. And that's easy, right? We've been conditioned and programmed to live that way. But like you said, it's understanding that in a moment you can focus your eyes on the road ahead, where you're going, the greater vision. And when you do that, that's where the joy of life, that's where you just live in a greater sense of gratitude, blessing. And I find that's the game, is how quickly can I shift from dwelling the rearview mirror to the windshield ahead.
Super facts. And here's the other thing. If you're driving looking in the mirror the whole time, you can't see what's ahead. So you're gonna eventually crash.
Yeah.
So don't live in there. Don't set yourself up for failure. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious, you just released an amazing new book, the Yes I Am, and I love it. I love that you're sharing it. I'm curious, what why do you feel called to share this message? Because I know a lot of yours is around this like belief, right? This self-image and truly, stepping into who you were meant to be. Why did you feel inspired to share this message?
I think the seed of this came from when COVID first started, that first year. I saw a lot of people struggling with their mental health. I lost a couple of people close to me, and I know of people who passed away due to their mental health throughout that year. And then I couldn't help but think, if they had just a stronger belief in themselves, just a stronger foundation of who they were as not even just as a person, but as a spirit, then maybe, just maybe, they would have not let themselves get to that point. They would have fought to not get to that point. They would have loved themselves enough to not get to that point. And then I look at my son, and I do affirmation. I was already doing affirmations with him from when he was like 8 months, maybe. I was doing affirmations with himself. I'll say random things to him. I am strong. He repeats after me. I am capable. I'm valuable. I'm worth it. I'm a king. I'm a king. He says, I'm a king. You can't tell him anything else. And I saw that, and I believe that the word I is the key that starts the engine of creation. The word I is the key that starts the engine of creation. So when you couple I am together, that's the most powerful phrase there is in the English language. Anything that comes after I am, you've created. So why not create positivity? Why not create greatness? Why not create opportunity? Because when you speak it, it comes into existence. The tongue has the power of life and death. I choose to speak life into everybody. And I want everybody to choose to speak life into themselves. So those are that's the main reasons why I wrote this book. And there's also a diversity and inclusion aspect to this book. I don't know if you see the multiple hands here. In the first page, there's a name glossary in the first page. So there's various different names. You probably can't see that, but there's various different names from various cultures. And this is more of a challenge to the readers, to the adults that are reading this, to learn different names, to expand their vocabulary in a sense. And there's the phonetic spelling is also there, and the name meanings are there. And the most powerful thing I realized is that kids who may not grow in the most diverse, may not live in the most diverse environment, they're going to be exposed to different cultures just through this book. Like my son is saying indigenous names and East Indian names now, and he thinks, yeah, like they're in the book. So he knows there's different cultures in this world. And for the other thing is that my son is a character in this book too. His name is a character. So now my son's name it's not the most common name. It's a rare name. But now he thinks his name is very common. He thinks his name is cool. And if you told my son that he is not smart, he will laugh at you. And he says, I am smart, because his character in the book says he's smart. So where's that power? What you say is who you are, So I'm a strong believer in that. And I love kids. I love life, and I want to invest in kids. And the best way to invest in kids is to write in these books that will build a strong foundation of who they are, so that when life hits them later, it just hits them hard down the road, they will not deviate, because they're firmly rooted in who they are. Yeah.
I love how you are using your experience with your son and teaching him from such a young age, right? Like, you think of just the gift you've given him there from the age of 8 months, just on the power of affirmations, on the repetition of just giving him, reminding him to say empowering things to him, right? And as all great leaders have talked about, they haven't agreed on a lot of things, but they all agree we become what we think about. So I love that you're bringing your world, and you're just helping to share these simple ideas with it. And I just think from a sport perspective, we spend all this time as coaches, wanting to work on these physical skills on the field, on practice, on the court, on the ice. But are we truly empowering them with the mind, right? The mind training, so that when it hits the fan, that they, like you said, they can remember who they are meant to be. So I love everything about it, brother. It's so important. And I know from my experience in education, I do feel it's a missing piece in the system, right? Like it's not difficult, but it needs to get into schools.
100% agree, and I hope I could get this book into schools. And just to connect with what you just said about the sport world, I think it's very important that coaches, man, from like the grassroots up, we have to like get like, yes, listen, man, I want to win. Like, I love winning. I'm one of the most competitive people you ever meet. But something happened to me after football, and happens to every athlete, but we just don't talk about it. When football was done for me, I didn't know who I was, because for so many years I connected or associated who Kwame Osei is with the ball that has laces, with running on the field, I could catching balls. Like that's who I was. I was just that person. Um I was just a sweat producer. You know what I mean? I was just that's all I was. And I went through depression in my first year after football. When my first year in Fort McMurray, went through depression. Just didn't know who I was. I like identity crisis. And once I started to tap into the various aspects of who I am, I started to realize that for so many years, I've been attached to this label. And this label, you know what? It's part of who I am, but it's not all of who I am. But for so many years, I've lived in this label, which was on a box. I lived in it. And I decided to break it and get out of it and tap into all these things you see me doing. Mm-hmm. Right. So I don't believe in labels. I think that this thing I'm talking about, this is that what happens to a lot of people later down the line. Is this what they call midlife crisis? But fortunately, I started having that right like the 2 years after football, and started tapping into other things. So I highly urge every coach, every young player watching this right now, challenge yourself just to have some self-reflection, to really tap into yourself beyond sports. And this is what I do with my receivers. I remember the first practice. After first practice this year, I brought one of the kids in the middle and I told him to tell me who he was. He couldn't say anything outside of football. Like he said like 3 things, and I paused. I'm like, okay, what about outside of football? What do you do outside of football? And he paused and he couldn't really say anything. So from that moment, I started challenging all of them. And we started tapping into who they were beyond that. Because I told them, this is a young man's game. Like if you want to play in the pros, listen, man, there's a small percentage that make it to the pros. And even then, there's a small percentage that even go on to have long careers, right? So if you're going to focus on that, which is great, you still got to know who yourself. You got to know yourself. You got to love thyself. That's the first and most important thing. After that, you'll be able to do anything you want.
Yeah. Again, what you're sharing resonates with me about the importance of understanding who you are, right? Self-identity, really, right? Because it's interesting that it just reminded me, we live in a world that's programmed us to believe. And again, I just look at in education, how many young people I've seen that define their self-worth by some arbitrary mark out of 0 to 100 on a test or assignment, and how that shifts how they think and how they view themselves. And then as you get older, right? Again, we're not immune to as adults. It's how many zeros are at the end of your paycheck, what your job title is, all these, like you shared the example of, who am I? I'm a football player, and it's, I felt the same way when I left education. Like, who am I? And like you said, but it's embracing that discomfort and realizing that it's only through that walking through that discomfort, walking through the proverbial fire, that you will actually get clear on who you are. And at the end of the day, that's where the power lies, right? It's not allowing things outside of you to determine who you are, how you think, how you act, but it's coming from this place. And I have found from my lived experience, the more I live from here, I don't know, just seems to be more blessings flow into my life, and life just seems to feel a little bit brighter.
There you go. That's it.
Okay. So I'm curious, what's next for you? Like I said, you have this love of life, this gratitude, you choose to view life as a blessing. What is next for you? Because one thing you said that really resonated with me when I was up at Queens a few weeks ago was, I'm, just this idea of more than just a football coach. Like, kind of what's next for you? Because you're blessing all these people. What's next for Kwame?
Well, right now, my focus is getting this book in as many schools as I can. That's first and foremost what I want. I don't know, JT, honestly. I know I said before, like, my focus is like, get to where I want to get to. I kind of know what it looks like, but I know I'm far away from there. And one thing I've realized is, like, you just have to go with where the universe takes you. Like, I'm just on a journey, bro. Like, I'm just on a journey, and I don't know what's next. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. But I know that I'm on a journey to something that is meant for me. I'm on a journey to a place where I was created to be in, you know, and where this conversation right now, having this conversation, is part of that, you know. And I don't know. I'm all about energy. I'm all about big energy. I'm all about like just intuition. I'm all about connecting, getting connected, and staying connected. So I'm just about just trying to maximize this gift called life. That's it. And try to be present and enjoy it. That's it. So I don't know exactly what's next, but something's next. And that's the beauty of it. So I'm just going to appreciate it.
You know, it's interesting, again, that simple idea, right? Like, life really is a gift. That's why it's called a present, right? And that's where, again, the joy, the love, the peace of life is when you're fully immersed in the here and the now, the present moment. Right. Okay. So I'm curious, if anyone has any questions, you know, they want to get a copy of the book or multiple copies, I would encourage anyone listening to this, anyone watching this as an education, has young kids at home, you need to get this. Like, quite simply put, what's the best way people can connect with you or get a copy of the book?
Best way, Amazon. As fast as delivery is Amazon. So just go on Amazon, type in my name. And yes, I am. If you want a signed copy, you could connect with me on Instagram or Facebook. Instagram name is I am Kwame Osei. You can also go on my website, iamkwameosei.com, and order a book from there, and it'll also be signed. But just like what JT said, we got to get this book as many places as possible.
Brother, I want to take a moment just to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for, you know, the great man you are, the great dad, the great son, the great partner, teacher, coach, but more importantly, the amazing human being you are. You know, the one thing that I've really been inspired by in the time we've known each other is just how you choose to view life as a blessing. Right. And it doesn't mean every moment of life feels that way. But I love just you putting out that intention to choosing to see it as a blessing. So thank you for that reminder. And thank you for being a shining light in my life and reminding me what this game of life is all about.
Preach. No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for blessing me with this opportunity. And I'm just grateful to be here, man. And I'm grateful for everybody who I've ever met in my life, you know, the people who love me, people who may have not loved me, you know, everyone and every experience has brought me to who I am today, has allowed me to be here. I'm a byproduct of what I've learned and what I've experienced. So, you know, it's a big shout out to everybody out there. That's it.
Absolutely. So, folks, Kwame drops so many valuable nuggets of wisdom that will not only help you succeed in sport, but more importantly, in the game of life. But as I like to remind you every week in the huddle, knowledge is potential power. It's the consistent and focused application of great knowledge that actually creates great results. So my challenge to you is to apply one of these valuable nuggets of wisdom to your life today. And as I remind you every week in the huddle, you are deserving of greatness. You are worthy of greatness. You are greatness. And my only ask from these conversations is, if it resonated with you, if it touched your heart, then please share it with a friend, a loved one, a teammate, someone who you feel just needs to hear this message. The more people that we have of listening, learning, applying these simple ideas to their life, the more blessed this world will be. As always, I love having these conversations with you. I look forward to chatting with you next time in the huddle. Have a blessed rest of your day.